Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I will be talking about how much it actually costs to study abroad in Scotland. If you want more support, more advice on study abroad, I would love if you could join my Girls Study Abroad Facebook group, which is the place for girls who want to study abroad and who are looking for encouragement, advice on, finances, the application process, anything. Feel free to join the group. So in this video, I really want to break down all of the daily, weekly, monthly costs that come with studying abroad. But before we get started, I obviously want to put out the disclaimer that all of those costs really vary. They vary from person to person because everyone has different interests, everyone has different priorities, different things they want to do. So the costs of studying abroad totally vary, but in this video, I will just share with you my costs that I typically have to pay in Scotland, so that you have a general idea. Anyway, it is worth it, okay? It's absolutely worth it, and you should honestly set everything on fire to make this work, because that is what my channel is all about, right? I want you to have the most amazing time abroad, and I want to encourage you to really step outside your comfort zone and have the time of your life, because that's what studying abroad truly is. And before I get started, I know this is super long intro, but I quickly wanted to link to the video I did all about how to find a part-time job in university, because I know that not every one of you guys has the financial support of your parents. However, that does not mean that you can't study abroad, because I have friends who completely finance their study abroad journey, their university experience themselves by working a part-time job. So you should definitely check out that video I did on that. And without further ado, here is how much it actually costs to study abroad in Scotland. So the first thing that I want you to think about when you think about studying abroad is tuition fees. So one of the best reasons to study abroad in Scotland, this is also what I mentioned in the video on why you should study abroad in Scotland, is that it's the only country that's primarily English speaking that has no tuition fees for EU students. So if you come from the EU and you want to study abroad in Scotland, you don't have to pay any tuition fees at all, which in comparison to England, for example, or Canada, US, you have to pay a lot of tuition fees. Where it's also free, it's in Sweden, I think it's free. In Germany, it's definitely free. You should most definitely check that out, because tuition fees can go into the thousands and thousands, okay? So you need to check that. Then second of all, what's a major money thing, right, that you have to pay for are flights. Again, here totally depends on, on your destination, how far away it is from where you live, and it also really depends on how often you want to go home. So I can just, tell you my costs and, how much I pay. So usually a return flight to Aberdeen usually costs around £200, so it's quite expensive. There are cheaper flights from Berlin to Glasgow, for example, which is £100, but generally it is quite expensive, and it varies how often I go home. For one semester, I would put away £70 or £80 per month, so that I can then afford my flight, or £100 per month for flights if you break it down 2 months, okay? The third thing you have to pay for a big amount of money is your rent. Here again, it totally depends on your situation. So usually there are halls, there are shared flats, and there are private flats. From my experience, how it is in Aberdeen, shared flats are the cheapest, and private flats and halls are the most expensive. So I don't know if halls everywhere are so expensive, but my hall in the first year cost around £500 per month, which is so expensive for what we got. I lived in one flat with 7 other girls, and my room was horrible, so that is definitely expensive. And the shared flat I stayed in now didn't have a great location, and I shared it with 2 other people, and here I paid around £250 per month. So like half of the price of halls. And private flats, if you want a flat for your own, I would say around £400 to £500 in Scotland. So at least in Aberdeen. I can only speak for Aberdeen, and Aberdeen is quite expensive. I think it's the most expensive place to live in Scotland. I'm not sure, but I think it's always great to find people on Instagram and YouTube who study where you want to study. You can also just what I also like to do, what did I actually do? Yeah, what you can also do is you go to the Instagram or the Facebook of your uni that you want to study in, and then you see who has liked the page or who has recently commented or anything, and that's how you just find people, okay? But don't be afraid to ask, because people, like, I always love giving away my advice, and people definitely won't be mean if you ask them for their advice. Then a fourth big chunk of money for me goes towards transport. I always take the bus. That's like my main way of transportation. I also walk, and for me the monthly bus ticket costs around £50, so it's also quite pricey. For you, it can be totally different. I don't know, maybe you have a car, then it will obviously be even more expensive, or you can take the bike, or you can just walk. Really depends on your whole situation, but don't forget about the transport within the city you will be living in. Not talking about flights to the destination, but transport where you are living, because that can often be quite expensive as well. The next chunk of money, which is quite a big chunk for me because is food. And you guys know I love food, so when it comes to food, I'm definitely not the most money saving person because I love good quality food. You can always find budget supermarkets, for example in the UK, Aldi, Lidl and Asda are like the cheapest ones. So if you go there and if you really find ways, if you find things that are quite cheap, then you can, definitely save a lot of money there. And I also did a video on just generally money saving tips in uni, which you should check out definitely. I think around £80 to £100 per month for food is, normal. It's probably what you will need if you study abroad in Scotland. Again, totally depends. I mean, if you study abroad in Spain, maybe your food won't be as expensive, or somewhere in Asia the food is also not that expensive, so it always depends. And then the sixth chunk of money goes to more fixed expenses. So you have like the rent, the food, the transport. Those are like fixed expenses that you need, okay? You need transport, you need your rent, you need your food, right? And then you also have more fixed expenses that you have to think about. So it's definitely your phone bill. Here, if you're in the UK, I highly recommend giffgaff because they have really, really good budget phone options. Like I usually take, because I'm an internet junkie, like let's be real, but I usually take the one where you get like 9 GB, which is so much, right? And you get like free messages, free phone calls, and it's like £18 per month, which is definitely not a lot. Like for that, here in Germany, you would pay at least double. Other fixed expenses could be Spotify, Netflix, or if you want to go to the gym. Here I put around £50 per month. Again, depends on your lifestyle. And then there are also other things you have to pay for. I know the list goes on and on and on. And that is, for example, if you want to go out, which you probably will do a lot, especially in first year, and maybe also in the other years if you like it. I don't like going out, so I rarely go out, but don't think that going out is not really expensive. Like I usually spend around £20 per night out. Another expense that you will probably have, especially in first year, is like, one-time buys, right? So things that you only need once or something. So like cleaning supplies or kitchen supplies, decor, new bedding. As I said in the beginning, when you study abroad, you can't take a lot from home. So you probably have to rebuy a lot of things like, cutlery or plates or pots, pans, as I said, new, sheets for your bedding. Then you also need money for any leisure activities. So when you want to go out for food with your friends, if you want to try out new restaurants, coffee places, if you want to order food, if you want to take any day trips, anything like that. So leisure money is also important. And then the last expense that you should definitely consider is travel expenses, especially if you're only studying abroad one semester. Chances are you want to travel as much as possible, so you need money for that as well. Okay, you need to think about that. Here I can't give you a certain number, but there are budget ways to travel definitely as a student. If you want me to make a video about that, maybe like budget travel for students, best travel hacks for students, anything like that, let me know here in the poll and I will make sure to do that for you. Alright, so those were all of the expenses I could think of that I have when I'm studying abroad in Scotland. So just like as a really, really general number, I would say that in first year, especially when my rent was like ridiculously expensive, I spent at least £700 per month. I know that this is a lot of money, but as I said, there are always ways to make things work. And it also totally depends. Maybe you aren't as fancy as me and you don't want to go out to coffee shops, or you don't eat that much food as me, right? It always depends, and you can always find budget options. And again, please feel free if you have any questions about costs or how you can afford things. I will honestly make sure to answer every single one of your questions. I can also give you names of my friends who are, working part-time jobs. Honestly, I want to make it possible for you. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I really hope it was helpful for you guys. Again, if you have any other questions or topics that you want me to make videos about, leave them in the comments below and I will make sure to film it for you guys. And yeah, that's about it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!